Well, what's going on, guys? This is Carl with the Racerred channel. I'm up here close to Hornet Lake, Hornet Reservoir, that is. And it's pretty snowy. I didn't expect this much snow or this deep. I also didn't expect so many tracks underneath the snow that are compacting it and making it ice underneath. It's very difficult riding. I don't have studs on. It's a tough situation. I haven't gone down yet, but I've been close. I am all over the road. And if it was just snow, I could snowmobile this thing. But because it's not just snow, well, I need a lot more of the road. Come on, baby. Been a fun ride so far. One thing I like to do quite a bit is play cards. Cards are really fun. There's lots of different card games, but one of my favorites is nines. It's one that I recently learned. Semi-recently, I should say. It's only been a couple of years since I learned it, but I think it's a lot of fun. Nines definitely is one of my favorites, if not my favorite. I also like trading cards. I haven't always collected those, but I was getting football cards when I was like 4 or 5, all the way up until I was like 12. And now I still get them, but my taste is a lot more expensive. I think they are a piece of history that you can hold in your hand. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see that history. I view it that way. A lot of people don't. A lot of people, even in the card hobby, they don't care about the history as much. They get ultra modern stuff, and that's fine too. But because of that, they end up getting a lot of rookies, and they spend tons of money on these up-and-coming rookies that are really mediocre most of the time. It's just a lot safer bet in terms of your investment, if you look at it that way, to get goats, get the all-time best. Can I get momentum to keep going? Oh, geez. See that ice underneath? It's causing a lot of problems for me. Going across the snow back and forth. So, going downhill will be more difficult because of my momentum, wanting to keep going, and it's going to shift my weight toward the front end. So if my front end starts sliding, it has a tendency to shift your weight onto it, and if you don't, oh geez, it tends to de-weight the front end and make it so you have even less traction. So I just keep it nice and slow, and I try to keep the weight on the back somewhat, keep it balanced, just enough to where I can steer with the front. But if you get off balance, that's a real problem in these conditions. It's mostly about balance here, because you can't rely on your front end traction. You have to rely on how your bike is positioned, because your front end isn't catching any traction really. It's just the entire bike, where you have it positioned, that's where you're going to go. Like right now, I got my rear end sticking out. But the ruts are really what makes this difficult. Just other vehicles have been up through here, so that makes it really difficult. Anyways, I was talking about playing cards and sports cards. And I say sports cards, but I really just mean trading cards, because I do non-sport stuff too, celebrity stuff. I just bought a Betty White not that long ago. There's only one of them. A lot of that stuff goes under the radar because people don't know about it, and that's the stuff I like. Because I'm always selling as well, and I don't really want to sell for a loss. So I get really unique stuff, so that if you want it, you're going to have to pay a premium. I think that has been the best way for me to do it, at least. It is beautiful up here, man. It creates a really cool contrast when you have snow against those mountains. You can see the trees coming through. That was a close one. I'm gonna have to slow it down a little bit so I can hop off the side of the bike easier. Yeah, this stuff is just, it's pretty up here, but man, this kind of riding is really difficult. I thought it would not be this difficult. And my buddy Lance was supposed to ride with me today, and I called him. I rode my dirt bike out to the main highway so that I could call him and tell him, hey, I'm gonna save you a trip, don't come. And I'm not really riding. This isn't what I would call riding. I'm on a road right now. I was hoping to get some single track in today, so this is not what I would call normal riding whatsoever. See, I like the deeper stuff over here, as long as you can get drive, because at least it's consistent somewhat. You can have holes in there like I just hit, but for the most part you're going to be getting a lot more consistency. Your front end, the reason my front end keeps washing out like that, I'll hit a rut that's underneath this top layer of snow, so it's not staying consistent. The whole bike goes sideways. A lot depends on the front end of the bike, but you're kind of steering with the rear end a lot when you're in the snow. The danger of getting real close like this to the edge is going off the edge, obviously. Makes it a difficult situation going off the edge, coming back up. As I was saying though, I play card games, and I really enjoy doing that. And then, especially on camping trips, I've found that it's a lot of fun. But I also collect, which I've said a million times now, I just keep getting distracted. Collect sports cards, and I collect the all-time greats, because those are just going to hold their value a lot better, and those are the guys I like anyways. So I'm not really into the new rookie prospects, because those guys 9 times out of 10 aren't going to be a name that you even remember in a couple years, even if they are looking really good. So there is that. I just think that it's a lot of fun. Like I said, my taste is a lot more expensive now than it used to be when I was a kid. Of course, when I was a kid, I was collecting like 90s early 90s stuff, and that is the cheapest stuff to collect even now because it was overprinted. They call it the junk wax era. If your card says anything from 1990 to 1997 on it, it's probably not worth much unless you have a very special kind of card. Alright, so I can't go over to the tracks here. It'll force me to slide, so I'm staying over in the snow if I can, because the ice over to my right here, it just had me sliding down the mountain, so I don't want to get too much of that going on. One thing that has, I think, saved the card market quite a bit is grading companies, because what a grading company does is they encase your card and then they authenticate it, and there's a bunch of security features on there to make it really hard to duplicate. And if your card is in one of those, then it makes it to where you know what the condition is for sure, and also it solidifies the value in a spot where you know what it's worth. And so it also creates rarity in a card, because before the grading companies did that, you would buy these raw cards and you didn't know the condition for sure. It could look amazing and it could still be low condition. So if you have a grading company look at the condition and certify that it is such, then it's going to be a lot scarcer, because the card is just going to be a lot scarcer because not a lot of cards can get high ratings. So even common cards, like the stuff that I collected as a kid, if you get some of those in good condition, well, then you have something rare, because they just didn't make them in good condition. Even out of the pack, it was very rare. So you probably had to get a card that was cut when the equipment was fresh or something, because even when they cut the cards, they create all kinds of issues around the edges and the corners, and then the printer creates all kinds of defects on the surface. So it is very difficult for a card to get a good grade. And not only that, but they print them off-centered. So if it's off-centered, then that's another problem for the card. So yeah, grading is a big deal. It has become a big deal for sports cards in general, so that you know what condition it's in, and you can look up and see how many of those in that condition there are. And there were millions printed, but it's really hard to get, like an early 90s card, it's really hard to get a PSA 9 or 10 in those early 90s cards. So even though there's millions of them printed, probably hundreds of thousands of them submitted to PSA, there's only going to be probably, in certain cases, just a few PSA 10s. Other cases it'd be a handful. It just depends on the card. And PSA 9's obviously a little bit more than that, but still rare. A lot of people still have this view as any kind of trading card, it just being a child's kind of toy. But there's an entire hobby that's been around for a long time, and inside that hobby, people don't view it that way. They view it as a work of art, a piece of art. It doesn't matter the player on it. You're not really collecting to look at a dude. I mean, I know that's what it is. It's pictures of guys in tights, essentially. This is what sports cards are. You are collecting the player, don't get me wrong, but it's not because you just want to see that player. It's because of the stats, the history, the look of the card, all that stuff. That player as a whole is embodied into that card that is a historical piece of history and a piece of artwork. That said, yeah, it's artwork that was printed, but it's rare nonetheless. What's funny is it's not, a lot of the most expensive ones aren't even rare. Like if you're talking about a Michael Jordan rookie, those aren't even rare. But for some reason, they are very expensive. I wouldn't buy one. People pay a lot of money for Michael Jordan rookie. But I'm not into it. I'll probably pay a lot of money for a Barry Sanders rookie. In fact, I have. But I'm not going to pay the premium for Michael Jordan just because it's Michael Jordan. Alright, I'm using this as a slow down. Since I couldn't slow down, I was starting to gain momentum and slide. This might be really dry and boring content. In fact, when I'm talking about it, like, the details can be really dry and boring. There's so many aspects of it. It's a really complicated thing to go out and even buy a graded card, because you have to know what to look for on the slab itself. For one, it has to be a PSA slab because nobody wants anything else. Also, the new ones go for a premium, so if it's a new slab, those go for more money than the old ones. And then you have to look at specific parts of the grade. So it could say Gem Mint 10. That doesn't mean the card is a Gem Mint 10. It could have an autograph on it, and it could have just graded the autograph. There are lots of cards where if the card was a Gem 10, the card would go for $1,000. But if they get it signed by the player and then just get the autograph a Gem Mint 10, it's only worth like $200. So there's a big difference there. Huge difference. There's lots of things like that to know. There's also designators, which I'm not sure if they do anymore, but there's still lots of cards in slabs that have designators on them, which is an abbreviation. For example, it says OC, and that means off center. Well, that drops the grade down. Even though it may say it's a graded like PSA 9, if it has a designator that says OC, that means the value of the card is that of a PSA 7. Generally speaking, it drops it 2 grades in value. So a lot of people would see that it says PSA 9 and think that's the value of the card, but the designator is a big deal. So when I first started back into getting sports cards, it was a real pain, and I lost a lot of money on certain ones, but it didn't take long because of COVID to really start making a lot of money too. I ended up buying a Jim Brown autographed card for like $400 and it sold for $2,600. I mean, people were going crazy. People were buying stuff for a lot. Now it's much more difficult to make those kind of deals. People aren't in this frenzy that they were. So you got to be really careful and you got to be patient. So that's just the nature of the sports card world right now. But as an investment, it could end up being a poor choice. That's why you have to enjoy it. Dirt bikes are a poor investment too, but if you love them, then they're a really good choice. If they add value to your everyday life, if you enjoy everyday life more with them, then that means that they are a good investment. You only have so many of those days to spend here on this planet, and you better do stuff that you enjoy. You could convince yourself not to enjoy all kinds of things, really. Even with sports cards, I mean, that's an easy one. I could be like, why do people get these pictures of dudes and think they're valuable? Like, why would I collect something like that? I could easily talk myself out of enjoying collecting, but nonetheless, I really do enjoy it. I allow myself to enjoy it. It's just one of those things that's a lot of fun. And in the wintertime, when trails look like this, sometimes it's easier to get really into a hobby like that. You have more time on your hands to get into a hobby like that. I tend to go to the gym a lot during the wintertime. I tend to go every day in the wintertime because it's just better for my mental health, physical health, spiritual health, all of that stuff. I like to get in the sauna and sweat it out. I think it's really, really good for you to get a good workout in. I've already been working out a lot this past month because it's cooling down and things are getting a little bit slower. But yeah, keeping in the gym, that's where it's at. Anyways, guys, I kind of went on a couple tangents there, but I know that this topic's probably pretty boring, but it's just one of those things that I'm into. Hope you enjoyed the video somewhat. Catch you on the next one. Peace.